Shalom. Part 2 of this module is going to be called Women's Suffrage in the Feminist Movement from a Biblical Lens. Alright, so a brief overview of part 1 of this whole series, which is called Order and Disorder of Gender Dynamics. We went over how Yahweh, the Heavenly Father, consistently established a divinely ordered hierarchy in the family and society. We went over the order of authority by covering 1 Corinthians 11:3, Genesis 2:18, verses 22 through 24, the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verses 22 through 24, right? And the reason for the male headship, 1 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 11 through 14, and the premise of Numbers chapter 30. And how, in short, Yahweh's system is patriarchal, with the man as protector, provider, and leader, and the woman as a nurturer, support, and keeper of the home, right? So that's the order. Now, we're going to be delving into the disorder, all right? So, this has to do with the women's suffrage and the feminist movement from a biblical lens. Let's get into it. Now, women's suffrage in the late 19th and earliest 20th centuries may sound like justice on the surface, but from a biblical worldview, it represented the deliberate reordering of Yahweh's design. Destabilizing Yahweh's order, giving women the same political authority as men, overthrows the headship principle. If we look at the book of Isaiah 3, verse 12, you see what happens. It says, "As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths." All right, so the way of the Heavenly Father's paths, his original archetype, his original order, has been disturbed. All right, through this women's suffrage movement and its demonic worldview, which they call feminism. You know, feminism's core philosophy is basically, they're not just seeking equality, right? They're not just seeking equality and rights. It sought role reversal, dismantling the traditional home, the nucleus of the Israelite family, and not just our families, the Edomite families as well, the so-called white people, all right, which undermines male leadership, right, and promotes independence from men. Now, if you look at it, early on, when you had the Industrial Revolution, you had, the correct order as far as the household is concerned. The man was still the head of the household. He would go and work. He would bring home the groceries, right? He would give his money to the wife, right, to go and pay the bills. The man would go out and get the groceries, and there was an order. The wife kept the home, and the man would protect the home and provide for the home. Now, with the advent of feminism, whose core philosophy was being equal, and then basically trying to usurp the authority of a man over a man, it just disrupts the whole order. All right, so we're gonna look at Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 1, and it reads, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish pluck it down with her hands." It's true. All this, fighting for equality and all that, you're not equal. The Heavenly Father didn't create you to be equal in that regard. Okay? So long term, you're going to see the fruits, and we're seeing the fruits of it right now. All right, so let's take a look at the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 16, and what it says. All right. You shall know them by their fruits. So the fruits of the Spirit, all right, is the results in real time, in action, as to XYZ's movement. Okay. You say, in this case, the feminist movement. What has been the fruits? Right? You got extremely high divorce rates. All right. Domestic violence has increased because of these highly opinionated and very prideful, ego-driven women. You got to remember, that's the very same ego and pride that Satan has, because he is jealous of Yahushua. He's jealous of the Heavenly Father, and he wants to sit where they sit. He wants authority. So since he can't get it the righteous way, he does things in an unrighteous way, and it's very cunning, and it's very serpent-like in his wisdom. You see? All right, so he can't get it the right way, so he's got to go the wrong way. And it's just the way the feminist movement is. It's very perverse. It's very off the original format and plan and blueprint of the Heavenly Father. All right, so let's look at some more of these scriptures. We'll keep it moving, you know. All right, so, you know, we talked about the rise in divorce rates in single parent households. I was raised in one, so I know full well, you know, how that feels. You know, nobody wins in that scenario. Okay, so we, you know, since the suffrage movement and the feminist agenda, there's been a steep decline in marriage as well, and birth rates. Okay, so not as many children are being born. Okay, not as many people are making their way to the altar to exchange vows and, you know, wedded bliss and all that good stuff. You know, masculinity is now, you know, shamed, and femininity is being redefined. You know, what do I mean by that? Masculinity shamed. I saw a video earlier. This guy, he's a bodybuilder, whatever, and because of it, you know, he basically was being honest. He said basically it's difficult for him to approach women because of their pride now, right? I saw another video, a woman, basically she was basically saying that, oh, I'm hot and I look good, and, you know, you guys don't even deserve my attention, and, you know, and another woman was like, dang, you know, that I figured it out. I'm just ugly, you know. Even though she said she was beautiful, she said she was ugly, and she had a point. She's ugly inwardly, and it's showing. You know, masculinity is shamed, you know, by feminists, trying to make a man feel bad for being a man. Okay, so that's what's going on. All right, and femininity is being redefined. You know, these women are, you know, very prideful, and, you know, they're redefining what it means to be feminine. But that's error. That's folly. That's wrong. Just call it a spade, man. You know, you can't redefine how the Heavenly Father created you. Just like, you know, you're born a certain gender. Okay, you're assigned that before you were even born. Okay, but you have a problem accepting order, and that's anything that's against the order is satanic. Let's be clear. Okay, now also you have the state, which is your institution. Okay, so the state has been replacing husbands and fathers as the provider. Again, it's satanic. So I don't know what, you know, it's clear what their religion is. It's clear what their personal beliefs are that they impose on people, that they compel people to perform in their system. It's very satanic. It breaks the household down. It divides and it conquers. Do you see? This is, you know, through deceptive means. Okay, tricking the woman. Okay, and saying, well, we'll provide for you. We'll provide for your children. They give them pennies. You know, and a woman feels like she has some freedom. She feels like she has some independence. And you know what happened a few months ago? You know, they're talking about cutting EBT and SNAP benefits. So now these women are pissed off, talking about going to stealing and things of that nature. So you see how much your feminism movement, you see how much your suffrage movement has gotten you. Now you're on the side of the road, calling a tow truck driver because you didn't have a man to come to your rescue. You know, now you're buying even more guns and calling the police, depending on the police now to protect you when you had men there, but you want to shame the men. You see, there's a trade-off for everything you do. The Heavenly Father, His original intent and design for the family, it was fine. It was just fine. But hey man, do what you do. All right. So yeah, Lord's willing, this was edifying. We move on to part 3 of the module. All right. Shalom.